Hello again everyone, welcome to my reflection on chapter 114 of Seraph of the End. This is going to be a meaty one, so strap yourselves in. Before we get into it, just to let you guys know, I have in fact made a recent anime music video for Seraph of the End, because the latest chapter was just that inspiring. Obviously, I can't risk posting the video on YouTube because, copyright. Instead, if you do want the link to it, let me know in the comments below and then I can link you to my Twitter or my Reddit, and hopefully then I can pop the link through to you on an instant message or whatever platform you prefer. Just let me know. So yeah, without further ado, please pull up a chair, make yourselves comfortable, pour yourself a good old cup of tea, and let's get into this reflection. So first off, this whole thing about you choosing Mika, because some people have been saying that no, this wasn't actually you choosing Mika over Gurren. He just reacted in the moment to summon his sword, like as a defensive gesture. To that, I would say I just disagree. And I don't think that that is me wearing shipping goggles. I think that that is actually what has just happened in this chapter. Because we know that you thinks in black and white. You thinks in terms of family and the enemy. It's either you're with me or you're against me. And Gurren literally uses the exact same phrasing in this chapter. You are either with me, you're going to go along with this plan, or you literally become the enemy if you choose Mika. They are both speaking in these absolute terms. Gurren is drawing a very clear line in the sand here. He is forcing you to make a choice. So even though you isn't the one that's proactively instigating this, he literally draws his sword. He knowingly goes against Gurren and becomes the enemy. So yeah, that's my position on whether you actually made a choice here. I think he absolutely did. He made a choice through his actions. He just didn't say, I'm choosing Mika because he's the love of my life. He just pulled his sword out. And to be honest, I think that actions speak 1,000 words. Part 2. Is you just as bad as Gurren? So in the reaction, I definitely had a moment where I was like, oh my god, you is just a mini Gurren, it's terrible. But some very bright sparks did some great analysis, and I'll just pop the links here above. So actually, there's a difference between what Gurren did, which was he took a proactive action that ruined the lives of billions of people, versus what you is being asked to do, which is you is being asked to undo the wrong that Gurren caused. So you refusing to do that is him failing to act, like it's an inaction. Normally, in law at least, it's when you do something evil that you are punished for. It's not when you fail to do something. And in particular, failing to rectify a wrong that isn't even your fault. I mean, how can we possibly blame you here? He is not morally culpable. He is not responsible for rectifying Gurren's wrongdoing. So no, you is not as bad as Gurren for choosing Mika here. However, even though I would say that Yu's actions clearly are nowhere near as bad as Gurren's by choosing Mika, Yu has the same mindset as Gurren. He has a villain mindset because the reason why he chooses Mika is exactly the same as why Gurren chose his squad. If you were to swap Gurren and Yu in Catastrophe at 16, if you put Yu in Gurren's place, and if you, put Mika and the orphans in the place of Gurren's dead squad mates, what would you have done? I think he would have done exactly the fucking same as Gurren. So I say that Gurren and Yu have the same level of mental culpability. They have the same evilness of mind. But in action, Yu's action here in refusing to comply with Gurren's demand, that is nowhere near what Gurren actually did in destroying the world in the first place. That's my thoughts. So here's a question then. What exactly were Gurren's intentions for Mika from the start? Was it just to leave him as a demon forever? What is his actual end goal for Mika? Because in this chapter, he doesn't really mention what will happen to Mika after the resurrection happens of humanity. If you had, made that choice, he just stays completely silent on it. So what would have happened? Would Mika have just been left as a demon forever, attached to Yu? And this sort of goes back to, what did Gurren mean when he said that he was trying to save Mika and attach him to Yu through the curse gear and stuff? Was that Gurren trying to give Yu a way of staying with Mika forever even after humanity is revived? It just means that, Mika himself won't be physically brought back. Maybe that was the point. I also have a bit more of a cynical interpretation though, which is that the whole time Gurren has just been stringing Yu along saying, oh yeah, this is all to save Mika, it's fine. And actually the only reason why he attached Mika to Yu as curse gear, the only reason why he killed him off as a vampire and turned him into a demon, was literally just to get him out of the way of Shikama Doji. That was it. It was literally just to get him with Yu and under Yu's control, because Gurren thinks he has Yu under his control, and therefore if Mika is bound to obey Yu as a demon, then Gurren indirectly is also in control of Mika and takes him away from Shikama. So I think that that's actually the whole reason. I don't think that Gurren turned Mika into a demon and attached him to you for altruistic reasons. I think that it was just to stop Shikama getting his hands on him. I think that was it. Also, think about how combative Gurren is during this conversation. I think that if there was any possibility of a happy end for Mika, that he could stay with you in Gurren's plan, surely Gurren would have fucking said that. Rather than going straight to the nuclear option of get your swords out, boys. This is where we decide, are you going to fight for humanity or are you going to fight for your boyfriend? Surely if negotiation was possible, Gurren would have tried it. But I think that the fact that Gurren went about this in the way that he did means that under Gurren's plan, Mika will simply cease to exist. Oh, and also on the topic of being cynical, I just want to put something else out there into the world, because some people have been wondering, well, what exactly was Gurren's involvement in the orphan's death? Did Ferry just go off on his own and kill these poor children? Did Gurren actually know that was going to happen? I think he did. I think he did after this chapter, and I will tell you why. So originally, I always thought that Gurren knew. I always thought that Gurren knew because he needed you to become, dependent on him, traumatized and dependent. I think there's actually a more practical reason why he did it now. I think that Gurren needed you to have a reason to buy into his plan of resurrecting humanity. I think that's why he did it. I think that's why he killed off the kids, because then you has a personal stake in the resurrection, and it's just that, obviously Mika means more to you than the dead orphans, unfortunately, as proven by this chapter. So yeah, I think that's why he did it, and I think, he's scum of the earth, so what's new? What's new? And I think off the back of this, let's just do a quick recap, because now we know who is aligned with who. We know that Gurren, Ferid and Cruel pretty much have been working together since the day dot. So Ferid kills off the orphans and allows you to escape into Gurren's clutches. Meanwhile, Mika is mortally wounded, is turned into a vampire and is given over to Cruel. However, all three of them know that the eventual outcome will be that you is needed in the resurrection plan, and that Mika is the son of the first, and they need to keep him out of Shikama's clutches. So, Yu was basically deliberately traumatized so that he would need a father figure to cling on to in Gurren, and, Gurren can then groom him into being an obedient slave. Meanwhile, Mika is then turned into a vampire because of his injuries, with the view that one day he will then turn into a demon at the right time, because remember, Cruel and Mahiru had that promise that when the time is ready, Mika would become a demon, and becoming a demon means that he's then out of Shikama Doji's clutches, or so these guys thought, because they can then attach him as cursed gear to Yu, and then Yu controls Mika, Gurren controls Yu, and then basically all three of them win because they've got one of the pieces of the puzzle needed to resurrect the humans, and the vampires can then die. And at the same time, they have prevented Shikama from actually getting their hands on his beloved son to resurrect him. So I think that that was the plan from the beginning. And if you think about it, it's really, really clever, because Ferid is the one that plays the bad guy in here. He's the one that kills the orphans off. But to both Mika and Yu, it appears to them that the parental figure that is established for them is independent and kind of trustworthy, Gurren especially for Yu, because, he's a human. Yu is, he thinks of himself as a human. And for Mika, it's Cruel is like an independent vampire figure who is shown to have a very deep hatred of Ferid. I'm thinking that whole scene where Cruel kicks Ferid's face, I think the whole thing was an act. I think the whole thing was an act so that Mika would, develop at least a level of trust in Cruel as a mother figure. I think that's what it was. I think that they are three devious, brilliant individuals. So yeah, I think that's what it was. That's the best I could come up with. If any of you have any other thoughts on that, I'd love to hear it, because it's time now to start looking back at what makes sense and what doesn't. Now we know who is aligned with who, we can start pulling apart the great plan of bullshit. Next point, the family have turned on each other, which is absolutely fucking brilliant. We've been waiting for it for so long because it had just become so cheesy and overdone, and we all were thinking, hang on, is this real? Were we actually meant to buy into this, that these guys were so close as this beloved family? No, the mask fell away at the end of this chapter. They've all got their own individual motives that can very easily set them against each other, and we all knew that the subversion potential was there. We've just been waiting for years, and we were starting to lose faith that it was ever actually going to happen. Cagney finally pulled the trigger. Finally. The question is, are they all going to side against you? Because Gurren said to them, you all have to make an individual choice on what you're going to do. Now, Kimizuki, absolutely, I think, is going to end up being against you. I think Yoichi as well has a very, very strong possibility that he's going to go against you, because Kimizuki and Yoichi are kind of like a duo, and Yoichi and Kimizuki both have their sisters to consider. I think that, yeah, I think those two are definitely going to go against you. Mitsuba, I've got no idea. Like, her parents, that whole thing came out of completely left field. She just seems to be a bit of a spare part at the moment, so I think that she will be used to go against you just to bolster the numbers, make the threat even worse against you. So yes, I do think that Mitsuba also will go against you. The question mark is on Shinoa for me, because Shinoa in this chapter, she doesn't actually have a weapon, bear that in mind. So the fact that she doesn't, pull her weapon out in this chapter doesn't mean anything. She doesn't have it. That's Shikama Doji, that's his power, and he's in a cage right now. But we know that Shinoa has stepped in the past to protect Mika when he was facing the demon army, so possibly she will step in again, because obviously she loves you. The only thing is that speech in 113, the weird speech that I really criticised Shinoa for because the speech made absolutely no fucking sense, was that just set up to show that actually she is sympathetic towards Gurren and Mahiru, and therefore she will also side with them? Maybe that was what the point of the speech actually was, even though it made no fucking sense. Emotionally, it was just to show that she's actually aligned with them, and if it comes down to a choice, she will choose them. So Shinoa for me could go either way, but I'm leaning towards that she will at least initially go against you. Okay, so we've got an issue of retconning in this chapter, because I thought that Saito brought both you and Mika to the orphanage. I said it in the chapter, and I looked back and I was like, it's not like me to just pull random things out of my arse like that. That would have come from somewhere. So I went back through the chapters, and yes, I did in fact find where it says that Saito brought Mika to the orphanage. So it looks like in 114, we've had a retcon. That annoys me. I hate retconning. I really hate retconning. It throws into question, what the truth actually is. As to the implications of that, I mean, I sort of talked about it in the chapter, but it implies that Saito hasn't got anything to do with Mika and Yu's special bond that they have because of the whole psychic thing. We think that Saito has only actually interfered with Yu, Mahiru and Shinoa based on Shikama's statements in the chapter. So Mika and Saito are not connected whatsoever. That's what I'm going to go with from now on based on 114, but I'm just a little bit annoyed and I just wanted to rant basically. Next point. So Yu and Mika are in an awful position right now. They have 3 factions against them. They are in a terrible position. They've got dear old Daddy Shikama, aka Lucifer, who wants to sacrifice Yu to bring back his dead son, and Mika being brought back is very unlikely to be, human Mika, our Mika. It's going to be, Seraph Mika that Shikama wants, whatever that actually involves, but it's not going to be Mika as we know and love him, who cared for the orphan children, who loved to eat curry. It's not going to be that Mika that Shikama is trying to bring back. It's not our Mika. Then you've got the family, who have just turned against you. And then you've also got the BBB, the blood-sucking bastard battalion. Yes, I'm very proud of that name. I had to put it in. I'm using bastard in the sense of royalty because the vampires are all rejected experiments, aren't they, from Shikama? And Mika is the only true-born heir, and all of the bastard vampires hate Mika as a result, and they've all turned against him. So yeah, we're going to go with the BBB. We've got Lucifer, we've got the family, and the BBB. The 3 factions. What the hell are you and Mika going to do now? So the first thing is that they cannot do this on their own. These 2 cannot do this on their own. I think they can eventually. I think they are powerful enough, but right now, no way. What do they know about magic, and what do they know about resetting the world on their own, and how do they get out of this? No, they need help from someone. And I think the most logical choice is that they're going to go to Shikama, because Mika has just found out that he is the son of Shikama in this chapter. And if you remember, Shikama has previously been labelled by Gurren and Cruel as the enemy. And obviously this chapter just revealed, no. Gurren and the family are the fucking enemy. So it stands to reason that, well, maybe the enemy of old is no longer perhaps quite such a danger. So they'll probably go back and hopefully go to Shikama and try to get more information out of him. I think it was Sid. I'm going to give a shout out to you because you're the one that actually pointed out on, I think it was 113's reflection, that actually the only person that seems to have all the answers in their pocket is Shikama. So yeah, we need to go back to Shikama and we need to get this man talking. And hopefully, like, he might actually be happy to talk to Mika and you without Saito having to torture it out of him with his fucking chains and cages. Okay, I'm going to start moaning again. Wasted chapters, like just wasting our time. What was the point of chapter 111 and chapter 112 looking back? What was the point of that? Was it just emotional build-up for Gurren's final betrayal? I'm just so annoyed. As you know, I was hoping that chapter 111 and 112 were indications that you had sort of developed as a character and that he no longer trusted Gurren, and the forgiveness might all have been a clever kind of emotional ploy to get Gurren to talk. But that's kind of contradicted by the fact that they don't force Gurren to talk until they actually get to the fucking murder mansion. And also, Yu looks very surprised by the choice that's being put towards him, like he didn't anticipate this latest betrayal. But in fairness, he then does immediately call for Mika and he immediately picks his boyfriend over his dear old dad. So maybe 111 and 112 was indications of character development for you. I'd really like to know your thoughts, guys, on those earlier chapters. Like, did they serve any actual, plot point, character development? Or was it literally just to make Gurren seem even more despicable in 114 after you had, the grace to forgive him in 112? Was that the point of 111 and 112? It was just to make us hate Gurren even more? Because I tell you what, if that was the intention, Kagami has achieved that beautifully. The only other thing I can think of is that maybe if you hadn't done the whole forgiveness thing in 112 and he'd just gone along with everything, maybe Gurren would never have revealed the fact about Mika being Shikama's son. Maybe he would never have actually had the courtesy of putting the choice to you, and maybe he would have just, enacted the plan and not explained a damn thing. That's the only very weak argument for the fact that 111 and 112 actually had, an impact on how the plot progressed, and it wasn't just, to give emotional weight to the latest betrayal. And then, can you actually get what he wants is the next interesting question, because Yu's greatest desire is human Mika. It's not demon Mika, it's not Seraph Mika, it's human Mika. That's what he wants. But Mika is not human in origin at all. Well, he had a human shell once upon a time, but that poor Mika died at 8 years old. So I wonder if you can actually get what he really, really wants deep down. And we know that that is what Yu wants, because we saw in 104 when Mika goes into his heart, into the darkest, deepest corners, Mika sees a reflection of himself, but in a humanized version. Vanny made very interesting points on why does Yu have this obsession with a human version of Mika. I was looking at it from the point of view of the fact that Yu doesn't want Mika to suffer anymore, because he knows that the vampire curse means that you lose your emotions, demons lose their memories, like it's a whole mess. So Mika being a human would restore Mika's quality of life. So I thought that's why, that's Yu's deepest desire. But then Vanny made the really good point and said that Yu might feel guilty because he left Mika behind, and then blames himself that Mika became a vampire, so he's trying to atone for that by making Mika human again, which is very interesting as well. So yeah, it could be a mix of both. This also opens up a wider question. So aside from Yu's emotional reasons for wanting Mika to be human, is there actually a practical reason? Because like I said, Gurren may have been banking on the fact that if he attaches Mika as a demon to Yu, then Yu's got no logical reason not to side with humanity when the time comes to make a choice, because he still has Mika with him just as a demon. So what's the problem according to Gurren's expert calculations? But actually there are problems with Mika being a demon, and I think there are good practical reasons why he cannot stay the way he is. Mika's memories are messed up. I think his emotions are still messed up, because I'm sure that demons don't have emotions as well. They're like vampires, and they also thirst for human desire because they're empty inside. So Mika's emotional state is all fucked up. His mental state is all fucked up. Yu himself is completely fucked up as well, bear in mind, because he's got Seraph in his soul. He's also got Ashura as a demon in his soul. He's got Mika in his soul. Yu himself is completely screwed up, and it was said in one of the earlier chapters that is slowly destroying his sanity. Mika and Yu both need new bodies. Like, they both need a complete reset. I've got no idea how they're going to do it, but these two need to find a third option. They need to find like an ancient magic spell somewhere. Maybe Narumi can come back. This is where I've been for the past 3 years. I've been researching the exact spell you need to bring you both back as human beings. Narumi will save us. In Narumi we trust. Okay, so predictions on the next chapter then. So my immediate thought is that Yu doesn't actually want to fight any of the squad. Oh, and by the way, that's a very scummy move by Gurren, because Gurren knows from 112 that he can beat Yu in a straight up fight. But no, he sends the squad to do his dirty work in this chapter. He's like, restrain Yu. So he's pitting them against each other, probably knowing that Yu doesn't want to actually fight his friends. Anyway, back on point. So Yu will not want to fight these guys, and I think he probably won't want to damage the coffins either in that room. So I think the most likely thing that will happen next is some kind of retreat. Question is, how do they do it? I had an idea. And my idea is that Mika's powers are dimension-based, like he can warp space. We saw that when he was fighting Shikama. We know that he can create like entire worlds through his magic. He's only used that power so far in the demon mind space, but maybe he can like use that power in the physical world, such as by possessing you, and maybe he can literally get them out of there. We also saw another demon user pull that trick. It was just before Mika died in 90. It was when one of the 100 Knights guys went up against Mitsuba, and he used a weapon that literally like made a little pocket in reality, and he disappeared through the pocket. So maybe Mika can pull the same trick. On the other hand, if it does come down to a fight, which it very well could, there is a very strong possibility that Gurren is immortal. Gurren said in the previous chapters that he, in particular, is cursed by the fact that he did this resurrection, like there is a curse upon him. Now, whether he's just talking about the fact that he can't, speak to his squad mates about what he did, and that's like the curse, because if he speaks, then it will reduce them to dust. Or, based on this chapter, Gurren states that the person involved in resurrecting the dead, one of them will be cursed with eternal life. Now, I'm pretty sure that Gurren was the only person involved in actually setting off the spell, like proactively involved. Like his squad mates were already dead, so I don't know if you can count them as being, involved in the spell. Maybe you could, I don't know, like as the subjects they are involved in the spell, maybe. I don't know, I read that line to mean like the person who actually commits the sin, the one that proactively takes the choice to set the spell off, and in that case it could only be Gurren, right, that is cursed with immortality. Anyway, so if a fight breaks out, we could well discover that Gurren is immortal. So if that does happen, look forward to me losing my fucking mind during the recording, because I will freak out. The other interesting thing is that if you remember, Mika made a promise to Yu. He said that if he ever thinks that Yu is in real trouble, he will start by killing Gurren. So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that if we do get a fight and not a retreat, Mika might go feral to protect beloved Yu-chan. So that will be absolutely brilliant. And yeah, if Mika does go feral and then whatever he tries doesn't work because Gurren's fucking immortal, oh God. I will be a mess. I will be an absolute mess. And then, assuming that they do manage to somehow get to safety, what happens next? I think Yu and Mika are going to have a bit of a talk, because Mika is not going to be happy. He's not going to understand why Yu made that choice. We saw the shock on his face. Mika's going to have some words about that. He's going to be like, hang on. Why did you choose me? Why did you not bring back Akane and the children? Like, why the hell would you choose me? Because, Mika doesn't believe he deserves to live. Best boy. Oh, best boy deserves the world. Anyway, getting back to it. So yeah, I think that there could be very good potential for some heartfelt discussions between Yu and Mika. And maybe even Yu will pull out the memories from chapter 90 and show Mika, because I still think that Yu was hiding those memories from Mika about Gurren's past betrayal. In the wake of the latest betrayal, maybe he will, let down his walls fully, and he will show him, yeah, Gurren did do this before, I'm so sorry I didn't listen to you. And obviously the love confession, etc. And then it's like, this is why I chose you. Who knows? Who knows? I'm hopeful. My shipper heart is so hopeful. So yeah, that would be good. But I definitely think they have to have a talk after this, surely. They have to. And yeah, Mika being sliced in half still hasn't been addressed. So it needs to be addressed. And I think now is a very good opportunity, once they get to safety, to address it. and then they can go off and find Shikama and like figure out what the hell they're actually going to do long term. So yeah, that was my reflection on chapter 114. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please give me a like, comment and subscribe. If you'd like to follow me on social media, the links are in the description below, and you can also support me on Patreon if you feel so inclined. And with that, guys, please take care of yourselves. I will see you in the next one. Ciao, ciao.